Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Huddle by Goalster. We're so excited to have you here. And today we're going to get to know Goalster. We're going to get to know the founder and CEO, Darren Webster, why he developed the platform, and we're going to get to know a little bit of how it works and take a look at the platform. Welcome, Darren.
Thanks a lot for having us again.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining. I'm really, really excited to do our first walkthrough of the platform. In two or three sentences, if I can put you on the spot, if someone had to drop off, what is something or what would you tell them is the reasoning behind using Goalster?
I think achieving goals is a process, and it's whether you're trying to put a man on the moon or you're trying to just get to that next stage in your career. There's things that have to happen in order for that goal to be achieved, and ultimately what I wanted to build was a mechanism for an individual or for a group of people, a company or an organization, to be able to rally themselves or their peers around a goal, have a roadmap of exactly what needs to happen in front of them, and make it more likely for them to succeed because they've got that executable path that's laid out.
Yeah. Well, great. And we are looking forward to seeing it. Not to put you on the spot too much this morning, but would love to jump right into it and just take a look. I know there's, two facets to the platform. There's obviously the front end and the back end of it. I would love to start with the front end and just have you tell us a little bit about the end user experience.
Awesome. So I guess I'll start by just sort of going back through why I built it in the first place, and maybe some of the experiences that went into creating Goalster itself. And it was really the sum total of three things that three big experiences in my life. First was I used to be an athlete. I was a sprint canoer. Went to the World Championships in 2001 for Australia, and I was part of the Australian Institute of Sport. So high performance sport was a big part of my early life. When I retired from kayaking, I went to work for a company called Verizon in the US, and I started as a part-time retail rep and worked my way through the company to be a fairly senior leader, where I was responsible for the national distribution strategy for Verizon. So I had this accelerated career, and I got to work with all these great people and learn what really good execution looks like, because it was something that we were very proud of at Verizon, our ability to, as an organization, rally around things and go and execute them. And then once my career, I wanted this itch that I needed to scratch over time. And what I wanted to do was, after my career at Verizon, build a consulting and coaching firm that would enable me to help have a positive impact on others, and to be able to take everything that I'd learned in my career and then impart that to either companies or to individuals. And so that was the sort of the whole experience that went into building this thing. And so the first thing that I built was the MVP, and it was all based on an individual professional. How do I help give someone a tool that makes them the best version of themselves they can be? And so when we pull up the actual user experience, we start with a very simple dashboard. And so what you're seeing in the dashboard here is it's mobile first. So we wanted to build it very simply, and we wanted people to be able to come into the application and get information that helps them execute immediately and be accountable for the things that they need to do. And what we can do in this is actually provide coaching, and you see there in the form of videos and things like that, where if I'm a user and I've got two things to do today, I want to be able to go straight into there to look at that individual's sort of main action item and be able to say, okay, under the banner of client onboarding, here's what I want to be able to do. And now I've got what I need to do, how I should be doing it, a video that explains what doing it should look like. And now there's a very low likelihood of someone being able to not execute that. And so what I wanted to do was to give the individual that pathway to succeed and make it really easy for them to get the resources and tools that help them do it. And so when they first log into the application, that main screen is really about centralizing everything that they could be working on and focusing them only on the things that they need to in order to achieve the goals that they wanted. So that's the sort of the first part of the application. The second part of it is where we can incorporate content that allows that individual to get the training and the development they need. And so what you see here is a channel. And a channel is where we deliver the right content, whether it's programs, whether it's videos, articles, surveys, really organized, structured stuff. Because we went through in Verizon, many trainings, and while they were all great, what they lacked is the ability to sustain the execution of those behaviors or those concepts and the integration of that into my daily world. And so with the channel, what we aimed for is to be able to give either a company, a coach, or an entity that delivers this sort of training, a mechanism to be able to deliver it straight to the user where they can take action on it immediately. And it becomes this sort of coach in the pocket where I get the content that helps me achieve my goals, stuff that's relevant to me. But I also have two-way communication with either my coach or my leaders. And that's the idea of the channel. You can see here, there's a survey. Within here, you can not only get direct feedback from users within the platform, and for the users, they can have a voice, but it also enables, let's say, a coach or a consulting firm to be able to gather meaningful data from the users that are using the platform, and then use that to either enhance the experience in some way, maybe get better content in there, or more relevant content, and be able to make the experience better in the future. So that channel becomes that really great, easy vehicle. It's often compared to a learning management system, where most of us who've gone through these sorts of things, there's a program you've got to do, and you've got to do a task and prove that you can do it. We adopted the same principle, but I wanted this to be something that a coach or a consultant, for example, or a company for their own employees could create their own experience with their own content that really matters. And so that's where the channel, I think, is really cool. Now, the goals are really the fundamental of Goalster. So when when we first look at what goals look like, there might be a series of goals here. So you can see just the three goals if we stop right here. So if I'm an end user, there might be three different initiatives that I'm working on, either in terms of my own development, maybe onboarding, as you're seeing, I'm onboarding into a new company, or I'm a salesperson and I've got to hit 10 new clients, or I'm a coach and that's one of the goals for my business over the quarter. And then there's another one here that you can see, coaching business fundamentals. So in any job, every job that I've ever had, there are fundamentals that need to be executed week in and week out for someone to be successful. If the execution of those basics is not there, then more than likely they're not going to succeed. And so what you can do within Goalster is have multiple goals that I'm working on simultaneously, but have it all centralized and simplified into one place where I can say, "Okay, two things to do today. And if I just do these two things, which have all the information that I would need, I'm going to be more successful." And so as we keep looking at the platform, what you'll see is that sort of multimedia experience and being able to bring, what's the plan for these 10 new clients? How am I going to hit that? Well, I've got to do prospecting. And by the way, I've got to do prospecting in a certain way. And I should have these resources in order to be able to do that. So whoever the user is, whether they're a rep in a retail store, or whether they're a consultant who's driving their business forward, this becomes that central place for, if it's worth doing and if it needs to be done, it should be in Goalster. And what goes into Goalster gets done. That you've got to be accountable for doing what you need to do in order to achieve the things you want to achieve. And so that's really the core problem that I think that most platforms haven't addressed. Is it's one thing to be able to deliver content to someone. It's another thing to give them a mechanism to be accountable for actually putting that into place. And what we wanted this to be is a very positive force for an individual or for a team or for a company to be able to rally everyone around big initiatives, to help give them the tools that they need to succeed, and to help provide a mechanism to have almost real-time visibility into that execution as it's happening. Because as an organizational leader, we led teams at Verizon, you and I. It's so important to understand, are we doing the things that we need to do to get to the place we need to go? And oftentimes companies only look at the reporting at the end to see whether they got there, as opposed to were they doing the things that were a big part of that. And so the last part of the platform is the portfolio. And I really like this because what I wanted the portfolio to be is like the ultimate resume for an employee or for a professional. And so you see here, Jane. Jane has this ability to upload a video, which could be sort of let's call it a three-dimensional resume, like a video resume. And also as we move into it, Jane can also very easily update this, her mission, her document, all of her information here, but also then showcase her highlights, what she's proud of in her career so far, or what she's achieved so far during the course of the year, or perhaps what she's achieved as part of the program she's working on with her coach. What you can then do is start to showcase this stuff in a way that really turns heads, I think. You can, as Jane's doing here, she's showcasing what she wants to achieve in the future. She wants to complete this developmental program. She wants to take that next step in her career. And those goals that she's working on should definitely align with that. But also she gets a chance to showcase things that she's adding in terms of skills, education, and most importantly, at the end here, you'll see feedback. And this is where Goalster becomes a really good personal coaching tool. And so as we move into how that feedback is delivered, we'll talk about the manager experience. But what you can see here is that Jane is getting quality feedback. There's a specific format we use so that it ensures that there's really good quality feedback going. And what this enables, say, a company to do is to inspect the quality of the coaching that their managers are giving to their employees. And so there's this really good mix together of, I get the content that I need out of the channel, I get the execution through the goals, and I have this really great way to personalize it and showcase myself and what I've achieved. So, that's the sort of user experience and the kind of vibe that I wanted to give, something that makes the user the best version of themselves they can be.
And to dive into it a little bit, because obviously, I use the platform, but from every aspect of this, as an end user, I guess we'll start with that. I have been places where you do this intensive 2 weeks of training, and then you get out and you have no clue what to do, right? So I think something like this is so helpful in being aligned, what you have to do, not just knowing what, because a lot of us, and I'm using me in sales, but a lot of us in sales know, I have to go in, I have to hit that goal. But especially if it's a new industry, a new job, how do you do it? So I absolutely love that. Is there anything, with that, with having everything in there that shows you exactly what to do. And then an important point that you brought up that I think even I forget about sometimes is that manager experience. Because when you become a first-time manager, I feel like a lot of people just look at you and say, or especially if they're promoting just top performers into it, they think just go in, just do what you were doing before. But we don't like hero leadership, right? We want people to learn how to do it. So I just love your point about, managers being able to kind of spot check and trust but verify that they're doing the right things from the top down. So
yeah, what most managers want is just the comfort in knowing that the expectations have been set for what is going to make this particular team successful, that everyone's working on the right priorities, and that they're checking off the things that they need to in order to succeed. And that's hard sometimes because you're not always in every place, and particularly in this new world of work, the future of work and remote hybrid environments, they're even harder to really understand what are people doing out there, what are they actually achieving, and so what I wanted to give, and I'll give you a quick walkthrough of this as well, is sort of what the manager sees. And so you've already seen what the user experience is, but let's say I'm Jane and I'm the manager of a team. I now have a sort of a clear dashboard of, for this week, I can drill it down by departments or by hierarchy. But for this week, this is what my team needs to accomplish in terms of the activities, the training, the content that we're putting out there. And I've got a sort of a real-time view of, are people doing the things that we need them to do? And so Jacob is an example here, or Jane are two users within the platform. And so now I can drill into the actual users. So Jacob has got 2 goals that he's working on right here. His Q3 sales plan, but also a developmental program that he's working on. And so these are goals in and of themselves. And so for his Q3 plan, now I can sit down with him in a one-on-one and say, hey, Jacob, what's our game plan to get to this point? What are we going to do in terms of driving 150 new subscribers? Or, when we do prospecting, Do you have the coaching and tools? Do you understand what you need to do? Are there resources that we can link you to? This is really important in terms of setting up someone for success, but also inspecting whether they're doing the stuff that they even need to do. And what that allows a manager to be able to do is is ensure that they're across what's happening. I think the job of a manager is actually just to focus on helping their team members succeed. And so if Jane's focus is to work with Jacob to achieve these goals, then that becomes this becomes that coaching platform. And once that one-on-one has happened, or those coaching interactions happen, Jane has the ability through the platform to just immediately give feedback to Jacob. And so that feedback may come in the form of, recognition. It could come in the form of sort of corrective coaching, those sorts of things. But once that's in there and sent, Jacob then gets the notification saying that Jane's just given him some feedback. It's all privately stored. And so you've got this really nice way to be able to not only set people up for success as users, but to now organize entire teams around that. And so that's where I saw this as being very useful to a larger organization, trying to get everyone on the same page, working on the right initiatives, ignoring the things that aren't effective, and making the best practices of the organization, the best practices of salespeople like Jacob, for example, standard practice across the board in a way that you can measure and see whether the progress is happening.
And through seeing, oh, excuse me, and through seeing that, then you should be able, if you know how to get where you want to go, you should be able to kind of gauge where they're at and where they're going to finish towards the end of the month. Is that right?
Yeah, obviously, as we continue to make the platform more sophisticated, the reporting and everything that comes out of it allows you to be able to get a better view of that real time execution. Are we doing the things that we said we were going to do, or are they slipping? And when you talk to most leaders, they can go to a time where their team wasn't executing, and that may be currently, or they're concerned about the level of accountability for doing those fundamentals, or the results are poor, or we're bringing on a bunch of new people. How do we ramp these folks up? What we want to be able to do is to launch them into an experience and a journey that takes them to where they need to go with all the resources along the way. That's how we wanted to make that. And for the managers then, or the organization, to be able to see that happening and be able to pivot if they need to, based on what the folks are executing. So it just provides that extra visibility that your typical HRIS or learning management system just doesn't get to. And that's where we think it's a big differentiator for managers as well as the users.
Mhm. So it becomes kind of a feedback loop, right? We're showing them this roadmap. We're showing them exactly what it takes to be great. Along the way, we're coaching them to those things and just making sure they stay on task, addressing maybe any gaps, anytime we've skipped it, and then able to deliver that feedback, collect that feedback, even use that for something like performance reviews, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that was it's the performance review process in most companies is pretty archaic, or it's one of those things that takes 2 months over the November, December, January period of time. And what I found was that whole process in companies is pretty broken. And if I could provide a mechanism where, as the year is going on, an employee is adding this stuff that they're doing, all these achievements, the work, the goals, all of this is going into their portfolio within 2 minutes. They then have their entire history of the year in one place that could be easily shared. And that's the benefit of that portfolio element of it. It's that how do I then show the impact that I've had, or the impact that someone else has had on me, in that sort of a format. But yeah, we wanted to absolutely make it something that people would want to share and want to keep using, because it is that connection between what I need to execute and what the company's strategy is. That connection is super important.
Mhm. Yeah, and with connecting the strategy to the execution, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but really digging into, you're not just coming here to learn about general best practices. You're here to learn about exactly what is great in your life and your company, however you have it set up, and then follow that and continuously get feedback, information. And that comes in, I just wanted to clarify really quickly, 4 different ways. Is that right, Darren? The surveys.
Yeah, you can do. There's lots of ways to impact the user experience. So you could launch someone into a goal that allows them to have that roadmap of the next, 2 weeks to 2 years if you need to. But then there's programs of content which would be organized structures of, hey, we're going to do a leadership development program that has 9 different modules. You could have for each of those modules all sorts of different content that deploys at a time that you need it for the users. And that's when we get into more of the administrative experience. It's probably a good segue to show, we've now seen the user experience, we've seen the manager experience. But what about if you had your own app? And when what really solidified this concept to me was a moment that I had where I realized I need my own app to be able to do the things that I wanted to do and have the amount of impact I wanted to have on companies and on people. And so when as we pull this up, what you'll see is Heather here, as you'll see on the screen, she's the company administrator. So you saw before that Jane works for AdCorp as well, and Jane was in the sales best practices channel, and so that means that we can feed through to a cohort of 50 people like Jacob and Jane, all the content they need, all the goals that they need to be able to achieve the work that they need to do. But I can do that for another group of people as well. So I can create a different channel, which is almost an entirely different experience for another group of people who are more aligned to, let's say, the executive strategy. And so you've got Will and Brad, who's the CEO and CFO. So they may be working on vastly different goals to the rest of the team. So how to make $2 billion happen, for example. So everyone can be working on different goals simultaneously that allow them to deliver the component parts of what the whole strategy requires. So if the sales teams are working on what they need to and they're executing those fundamentals, the executive team is lined up around the right priorities and everyone is accountable for delivering their portion of it. And even when you have new employees who are onboarding into a company, how do you ensure that these new team members are ramped up faster so that someone like Jenny, as she's going through her onboarding experience, is given all the tools and a roadmap of just do these things when Goalster says to do them, and you're going to end up being successful. That to me is the kind of experience that any new employee would want, so that they can be set up for success. But also, all the CEOs that I've ever spoken to lament the lack of alignment in some cases and the silos in their groups. Well, when you organize everyone around goals as opposed to their organizational hierarchy, you can do some pretty amazing things because then everyone's accountable for their component part. And so and to provide that sort of visibility was what I wanted, because we didn't have it. Even at Verizon, with all the money that we could have spent on tools, there was no way of being able to see as an organizational leader what's happening aside from just looking at a result report. There was no way that we could really understand how well we were executing as a team. And if we could, and then if we could use that information to pivot better, that result would improve. And if we could get everyone in the whole company aligned around the best practices that our president's cabinet people were already doing, then that moves the entire middle, or that moves the bell curve of performance if we can get more people executing the things that are already proving successful. So that's that really sort of brings it back to what this whole thing was, is let's make the users successful. But if we can do that with one person, we can do that with 30 people, we can do that with 300 people. And because we can customize these experiences, it just made sense to me from those different perspectives of my experience. That hopefully will make it easier for other people.
Yeah, I mean, and it already has, right? This is the place where, I know we always say this, but the place where achievement happens. So if you're looking to achieve anything, it's a really great place to be. I would say this is like a bonus question, because I know what I have in my Goalster. I have my personal goals, my work goals. I have some fitness stuff. Darren, what is in your personal Goalster?
So I have 4 goals. So the first goal that we have that I have is more of the overall strategy of the company. So it's a goal that goes for the next 12 months. There's specific milestones of things that we need to hit as a team, and each of the team members is actually assigned to the thing that they own. So that there's now a direct connection between me, our strategy, where we're going, and the people who can help make that happen. That's the sort of first goal. There's a second goal, which is more of the quarter and our performance. What do we need to hit in terms of milestones over the third quarter? There's a third goal that is sort of what I would consider the fundamentals of what I need to do as CEO. So for every job, there's going to be a certain group of activities that if you just do those really well, you're probably going to be a good performer. And that's a goal that I have that represents kind of like the drumbeat of if I'm doing those fundamentals every week and I'm staying accountable to them, chances are I'm going to be getting good feedback from clients. I'm going to be engaging and getting feedback from employees, working with partners better. So that's the third goal that I have. And then there's a personal goal. So I have a goal that I need to maintain better work-life balance. I need to do things that are better for me, and to do things that I enjoy doing. Because if you get too wrapped up in your professional goals at work, those are the first ones that end up slipping. So those are the four goals that I have: a strategic goal for the next year, one for the quarter, one that's just the week in and week out blocking and tackling of what I need to do, and one that hopefully makes me feel a lot better, because it's a stressful job here. But we if we do that, then that sort of, I think, brings a bit of harmony.
Yeah. Well, great. And we're looking forward to seeing exactly where or what you achieve and how that goes. And same to everyone else. As we keep mentioning, this is where best practice becomes your standard practice. So if you're someone who needs to master a new skill, learn something, keep yourself consistent, or just try something new, this is absolutely the place to be. And Darren, do you have anything to add before we sign off today?
No, that's I think it's great to. I can't believe it's as long since we decided to do this, but yeah, that's one thing that we wanted to make sure that this platform was just geared around making it easy for people and organizations to achieve their goals, and those goals could be vastly different, but what it's going to take to get there, what it's going to take to get you to the goal that you want, or your organization to get where you need it to, it's going to require people to do stuff. And if we can provide a platform that enables them to more effectively do it, more consistently do it, and then pivot to make that better all the time, then that's a good recipe for strong organizational improvement.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. We hope you got to get to know Goalster. And if you have any other questions, would like some insights on exactly how to use it, please reach out. We're happy to answer anything. Thank you.
Thank you.